Hey everybody, Joel here with another message of divine light just for you in this new year of 2021. And today I actually want to talk about manifesting the good life in this new year. You know, when it comes to the new year, you hear a lot about resolutions, but most people I know when I tried these, they usually never lasted more than a few days. You know, your typical diets, business plans, or even relationships. The changes in life I made by force or effort never seemed to last very long. The truth is, this is an old paradigm that results in struggling to keep what you get, constantly worrying you will lose it, fighting against the push-pull of others' efforts. If we plow through life in this way, we manifest a world of chaos where things can fall back to the original state after being achieved, simply because our character hasn't developed to hold on to our results. If you're not ready to receive what you want, even if it's brought right up to your hand, you won't be able to hold on to it. You'll literally see it slip from before your eyes. And that's even more painful. But manifesting makes this all so easy. So let's break it down. But where do we start? Well, our entire life has all been manifested. Our whole state of affairs, where we work, who our friends are, how people treat us, the state of our health, our level of happiness, joy, spirituality. Even before we knew anything about manifesting, these gears were already turning, bringing events and experiences along our path, good, bad, or whatever combination of events in between. There's nothing else to blame outside of the trains of thoughts we've allowed to entertain in our own mind. No accusation, because it's in fully owning what we've accomplished that we can adjust what we didn't know and create something new from a space where we now do. This is all done through our own consciousness or awareness. And while there are many offering their own explanations of how this works, I've systemically learned many intricacies and techniques as I've implemented manifesting in my own life over the last 10 years or so. Raised with a literalist biblical paradigm, I later searched and investigated all forms of esotericism, learning from many teachers on this subject along the way, implementing what worked, learning what didn't, but only to come back full circle and realize that it was all pointing to this very one singularity, that self-same manifesting power described in the Bible, but long since forgotten by the religious institution that pervades it. So let's get into it, and I mean really deep into it. The Bible is a psychological journey describing the processes and implements by which we may manifest, including examples of manifestations going wrong. It is exhaustive and contains the entire treatise of wisdom on this science that was well known and practiced by the ancients. Before the existence of each of us, awareness itself existed. This is the quality that everything that is has, that allows an experience to be experienced. In the Bible, God presents himself to Moses with the name Ehe Asher Ehe, literally meaning I am who or what I am. Jesus is quoted in the Gospel of John saying, "Before Abraham was, I am." And the risen Christ of the Apocalypse says, "I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and end." This embodies the entirety of the nature of all awareness through time and space, manifest as droplets within the ocean of totality, the embodiment of all consciousness. Through most of our life, we identified with our physical bodies and the thoughts we thought. But the fact that we can observe our thoughts means that we aren't our thoughts. Rather, we are the one observing our thoughts. In practicing by sitting and observing our thoughts, exercising that focus, the distinction between awareness itself and the thoughts we experience within awareness become more and more apparent. Our state of being attracts thoughts that are harmonious to that state, and like a chain, one thought leads to the next. What you entertain grows. What you weed out or ignore will eventually wither and die out, not bearing any fruit. Those first thoughts we entertain create further ideas, and then actions, and those actions compound into events and situations, leading on to the complex tapestry of multi-layered life experiences. This awareness is holographically fractalized in all of us as a singularity that is the point of that observer in quantum physics and is contained within all physical forms. This is how the universe actually has consciousness, how we can actually observe the world. The fundamental unit of the universe is not a material building block like the atom or the quark or the string, but the building blocks of experience within awareness, the experience you are having, the memories and thoughts that you perceive, all these components that make your whole experience. That is what reality is built of. So how do we build a reality that fits what we prefer to experience? How can we avoid the struggle and pains of life and create a life that better suits our desires and plans for the future? Well, it all boils down to our inner anticipations and incumbent beliefs. Many of these are built on past life experiences, the motions of which are set on autopilot. For example, we may finally get rid of a job or relationship that wasn't serving us, only to find ourselves back in the same situation with different faces. This just means that there is a program running on autopilot, and by implementing a new vision, we can see new results. In Ishayahu, Yahweh says, "So shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but it will accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper the thing to which I have sent it." That which is radiated, as in our vibrations, the frequency we emit, this is the logos, spoken by the I am that creates. This is what is echoed back to us as physical objects, events, situations, relationships, etc. In other words, the vibes we hold must deliver. They must be returned to the sender. But how do we change our vibes when they're on autopilot? A great deal of our psyche is beneath the surface, with generous estimates granting our conscious mind only about 5% of our entire mind. Most of our latent beliefs are held in the subconscious, and our conscious mind doesn't even realize we are holding these paradigms. But the subconscious is the final bridge through which conscious desires must be funneled through in order to be projected onto the experiential screen of time-space physicality based on things we see growing up, like social patterns, movies, home and family relationship patterns, jobs. All these are stored and continue to play on autopilot until rewritten, which is why people keep repeating much of the same old situations. New faces, same spaces. In fact, if it's not even in our awareness, we can't perceive it. And conversely, if we're harping on the lack of something, then no matter if it may come to us, we will not be able to assimilate the experience. For example, it may be the most beautiful day, birds singing, sun shining, crisp mountain air. But if someone walking down the street has a bitter attitude, everything they see will be reason to complain, and the beauty of the morning sun would only further rub them the wrong way. Like a projector, whatever's on our subconscious will manifest onto the screen of physical space, and this is being done whether we know it or not. Since our very first thought, we've set those wheels of expectation in motion, doing so inadvertently, but when we realize how we can change those ideas, That is the beginning of how we can start to hone our manifesting power into being more in line with what we desire. We can begin tapping into the subconscious arena with techniques that can imprint new experiences onto the subconscious. What we impress on this part of our mind must be brought back to us. So in other words, whatever we have in this bank will materialize through the process of time. Up until now, we've manifested a mix of good and bad things, while the whole process was largely unknown to us. If we feared something, that was a bad expectation we held, and what we resist persists. Wanting to avoid something won't keep it away because awareness doesn't do negatives. Rather, what you focus on will be fueled more. Any airtime, positive or negative, is counted, and those wheels begin turning towards that outcome. So we can see how life is a symphony of experiences, and all this complexity paints the vivid picture of our own individual life stories. If we frequently are ruminating over doubts, fear, jealousy, or what may go wrong, we are literally embodying that state as we imagine from that point of view. Since the brain itself doesn't know the difference between reality and imagined scenarios, we literally have the power to create the character of that person who has what we want in this present moment. We mark it by sending this vision into our subconscious, and from there, it will manifest. As God said to both Moshe and Yeshua, every place where the sole of your foot treads will be yours, meaning wherever you allow yourself to stand in imagination, that state will be made manifest. So start by doing an honest self-appraisal of yourself. As yourself, what have I manifested? Go over this last year. If you see something good, say to yourself, I manifested that. And likewise, if you see something bad, own it. If you see something you don't like, formulate a scene that would imply the desired end as already accomplished. Just as if you'd expect if you could snap your fingers and instantly be that person right now. Assess categories like health, wealth, love, happiness, spirituality, friendships and relationships, where you live, employment, finances. Ask yourself, what is my manifested state here? What have I manifested up until this point? Is there anything wrong? Are there things continuously going wrong? Are there fears getting in my way of moving forward? Do I like where I am now? What can be different? What would I want to happen if I could snap my fingers right now and magically embody a fulfilling scenario? What would that look like? Now, as crazy as 2020 was for most of us, try to avoid those things you didn't have direct control over. And for this exercise, particularly focus on any personal qualities you know you deserve to embody, but maybe you're just not quite there at the moment for whatever reason. Are there beliefs that are obviously contributing to holding you back? What beliefs might I have been unaware of until now, or that may have been programmed unknowingly by my parents or teachers or media or institutions? In uncovering these beliefs, they no longer remain subconscious, and simply by revealing them, they come to the surface and become conscious. Many times, all it takes to end a limiting belief is to become aware of it. Once you realize how ridiculous it was, you formulate a new paradigm that better suits your advancement. But it takes cultivating the vision in imagination in order to impress the subconscious and thus relay the experience back as a sensory physical event. While things like affirmations, making picture boards, or even faking it till you make it can work, the effort behind trying is in fact a subtle admission that one is not at the desired end yet. You still have an aspect of your being that subconsciously is acknowledging that it's not yet accomplished. The trick is to fully assume the point of view of already receiving by imagining the end. A believable point in time where we've received our desired result completely with no strings attached. For example, when I manifested a change of job, I went over all the points: money, doing what I love, that I want to do creative work from home. I want to work easy hours, connecting with others of this high vibe tribe. These are all very important to me. But what unfolded and how was totally unexpected. To be laid off during a lockdown. But I knew I had implemented a vision, so I held on to that faith that it would unfold for the better. And the rest is history. Now, here I am talking to you. None of this channel was planned from the beginning, except in that of awareness itself from the foundation of the world. So go over these points on paper. Start jotting things down, because 2021 deserves us to do something differently, and to do it honestly, in detail, specifically, so that we can clearly uproot our current situations that have not served us all that well and transplant ourselves into a new experience of life. Start to map out the world that your heart desires. It doesn't even have to be limited by what you currently think you're capable of achieving or even handling. This is a good chance to dip your toes into the ever-expansive nature of awareness. Despite all the setbacks of 2020, you are a more developed person than at the beginning of last year. Consciousness only travels down this one-way street, and the potential to arrive at what we think is an impossible place right now is very possible within awareness. And our ego really cannot fathom the intricacies through which our manifestations can so efficiently and shockingly be brought into our experience. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, meaning the thoughts of pure imagination. Pure consciousness are not the thoughts of the ego. Neither are your ways my ways, declares Yahweh. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Meaning, however you think it can happen is only a limit on how it possibly could happen. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith Yahweh, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. And to the church of Ephesus, Paul wrote, glory belongs to God, whose power is at work in us. By this power, he can do infinitely more than we can ask or imagine. To fully embody the scene in imagination is the key. This means don't imagine seeing it happen to you as if you're watching from a third-person point of view or to someone else. Don't look at other people's houses or relationships while thinking of how good it would feel to have that. That won't close the gap for you to receive it. You'll just be manifesting more of looking longingly at those houses or relationships. You want to step into that scene for yourself, and we can do that fully in imagination. What would you see? What would you see? Who would be with you? What's the weather like? Or what time of the day is it? Where are you? What kind of things are you thinking of in this scene, or planning to do, or talking about? This is how to bring the state of fulfillment real in the moment. All aspects of awareness, or the I am, are creative, replicating and reflecting off of space. The world outside simply reflects the dimensions that we have formulated within ourselves. The best time to visualize a scene is as you're falling asleep, when imagining the scene can become so vivid that it feels as if that very event is tangibly real. When you experience those very feelings, the exact replica, including the point of view from which you saw the scene, will be reproduced as an experience in your future. This is the only requirement, that you impress the end result into your subconscious mind, and it will subsequently unfold to provide you that end, if you allow it to. For in that one moment, that now moment, as you abandon the paradigms that created and manifested the same Ola, assuming new paradigms as if a new reality was already accomplished, by doing this, you bridge the gap between needing to get it done and allowing the brain to perceive it as finished. If, say, for example, you wanted to manifest a house, Imagine a scene having dinner in the house. Don't imagine paying for the house because some other thing may prevent you from moving into it. Of course, even building your own house would be a step towards having it. But when we get really clear that we're not manifesting all the middle bridges leading to our desires, what I call the how, because when it comes down to manifesting, that how really isn't any of our concern. You may not need to build a house. You may not even need to pay for it. Don't limit the universe by defining how you think it can or can't unfold. So start to outline some scenes. You want to visualize from a point of view that already has the end fulfilled. Not before it comes, not at the moment it comes, but having it securely in your possession. Map out facets of the scene, adding sensory dimensions like sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste if applicable. Add in what you're thinking, what you're feeling, who's there with you. Add as many dimensions to this imaginal scene as you can. Have fun. You might start off with speaking where you say, I'm so grateful I make X amount per month. So that's one dimension of sensory input. Now, add the idea that you're talking on the phone. So both sight and touch add further dimensions to the scene. As you can see that you're talking on the phone and hearing congratulations from a loved one. Then you think that you have the ability to travel. So you look out from the hotel patio overlooking palm trees on the ocean. You see, we're adding dimensions here that don't need words to be remembered or recalled in the scene. But we could easily use words, say, if we wanted to work remotely with ease. You could close your laptop and say, I'm so glad I'm done working for the weekend. It's only Tuesday. Remember, it's the feeling embodied as we visualize these things that reverberates back to us as the experience in physical reality. And there are no limits. For where two or three gather in my name, there am I with them. This is because agreement actually invokes the power of compounded imagination. How should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight? Remember, all aspects of God or awareness create synergistically, but even by themselves. So adding various facets of experience to your scene will add layers to the seed planted by your imagination. And if you don't uproot that seed, if you water the plant with a state that maintains the vibration you've just now stepped into, rather than reverting to the old man, standing in that faith, which is the evidence of an unseen vision, when we can embody that feeling of being there now. And we hold on to that anchor, that hope, that elpis, until we can accept it unconditionally in agape, unwavering and unconditional, regardless of whatever circumstances might imply presently. That is when it is literally dropped into your physical experience. So imagining these scenes allows bits of the state embodied to enter into our subconscious. The more detailed and intricate the scene, the less likely the whole scene in its entirety will be able to be impressed on the subconscious mind, simply due to the nature of the ebbs and flows of consciousness itself. So the best way forward is to go for a scene made of something no more than 2 or 3 lines, where you're discussing with someone you trust, having received your fulfilled desire, and them acknowledging or congratulating you back. Keep it short and concise, but still allow for the full essence of the scene. The more you practice, the more efficient and effective you will find your scenes becoming. Smaller bites can be repeated much more effectively, intensifying 1 or 2 emotions profoundly every time you repeat the scene. But trying to recall a detailed script as you're falling asleep is like taking 1 step forward and 3 steps back. So we see that actual prayer, as Jesus said, "Whatsoever things ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them." The children of God deserve the very best, but supplicating, Asking, begging is not the way to receive from the infinite bestower. It is instead the last resort after desperate failure. Other manuscripts of the New Testament that were edited say, be surrounded or enveloped by your desire, and you will realize it. Jesus also says, but when you pray, enter into your inner room, and having shut the door, pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who is seeing in secret shall reward you manifestly. In other words, that which is seen privately in imagination will project onto a physical experience where others may witness. And in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, for I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. This means that wherever you go in imagination, in the infinite sea of probabilities, that scene will be prepared and manifested as a physical reality. Imagination is the key to manifesting whatever we want. It is the conduit to divine source for vision of the future. The only limits are those we put over our own imaginations. You can literally manifest anything you can imagine, and even more if you maintain that faith and do not imagine thoughts counter to that initial vision. For Jesus himself said, "What do you mean, if I can? Everything is possible for one who believes." Now there is a time gap in manifesting, since we do live in a time-space dimension. But as we rise through the realms of awareness in realizing our potential and systemically putting it into application, synchronicities will start to align, rolling in those manifestations, narrowing the gaps of contrast between where we were and where we see ourselves, and accelerate us towards our vision as the gears of imagination turn within us more and more. So my advice is not to impose time limits on what you wish to manifest, but simply focus on the end result, because we are still working within time-space. And the universe has solutions to our problems that we can't even begin to imagine. So think outside the box and allow things to work out for the problems that have always been plaguing you, for which you've never had a solution. And imagine what that fulfillment would look like. The best part of all of this is that this is all testable. And in doing so, we can see just how awareness is God, which created all things and all experience. The Father, or Most High, is awareness in its entirety, the ocean of all consciousness, all existence, while the Son is your awareness, filtered through your ego. The Son is the byproduct of awareness having your physical experience of life. Jesus is the Word made flesh. This is your individual awareness, the inner eye, or your imagination. Do you not know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? Did you ever once think that you were awareness, experiencing your experience through a physical body? For the most part, we've always identified as our physical bodies, but this very awareness is what the ancients called a spirit, or the breath of God, droplets within the ocean, which is the all-encompassing self, the I am. It's never a good idea to let the ego decide what you want to create, because you'll create more things that will need to be cleaned up in the future. Things that you're going to realize in retrospect led you down a wrong way. Many times the wrong can't be undone. So it's best to create from a space of what the Christ vision has bestowed in your soul, not from your ego brain, because that's when synchronicities will align, not only for you, but for others as well. From that space, all inner desires and passions flow with ease, without inhibitions or encumbrances. Things will line up and you will flow into more and more of your best version once you get out of your own way with thoughts and subconscious distractions that weren't serving you. So close your eyes right now and imagine what it would be like if you could embody whatever you were just imagining now as I was just talking as a dream scenario. Who would be congratulating you? What would you be looking at? What would you be wearing? Intensify this scene. Add all the tones of reality to it. Repeat it in your mind's eye over and over again. Do it often. Do it as you fall asleep one night and prove to yourself that this really is how the universe works.